knowing combos, reads, and strings is only just like one small fraction of playing Brawlhalla. Most of the time, if you're winning against your opponent, it's not because you know more follow-ups or you have better reads than them, but it's because you're playing better neutral than them. So I like to focus on general gameplay tips and advice focused on movement and positioning based on your specific weapon, so you can actually bait, punish, and get a chance to use your reads in the first place. Alright, with that out of the way, let's talk about sidelight. Scythe sidelight is kind of like bow sidelight in a way. You take a small step forward, it hits right in front of you, right? And it leads into your main source of damage because, well, okay, Egg Soup already made a video on this, so I'm going to link it in the description. I'm sure people who are already familiar with the weapon don't need me to say this, but basically, every dodge can be caught with some variation of sidelight chase dodge forward nlight, or sidelight chase dodge reverse nlight, depending on how you time it. Again, the link is in the description if you don't already know this combo. Now that's for building damage, but if you want to actually secure stocks, you want to look for sidelight Nair. If they have no dodge, this is unjumpable. As you see, it's confirmed. If they have no dodge, you can totally kill with hard sidelight, but as you see there, it doesn't really have a lot of force. It's probably not going to kill until like 200. The next move is nlight. Since this move is so fast and hits in the air, it's great for people, you know, who like jump all over you like this. You kind of just throw an nlight and stop them in their tracks. A tip I have for reading after Scythe nlight that can be applied to literally every weapon in this game, but it's really good on Scythe nlight, is not just trying to read the dodge itself, but also reading what happens after the dodge. As we all know, when people get hit in this game and they dodge, they don't just take both hands off the keyboard, right? They tend to do something after the dodge, whether that be they dodge and then they jump, or they dodge and then they fall to the ground. Both of these options are things that you can read. Because yes, you can definitely try to read the dodge outright, but this is kind of a hard read, and as you get higher in elo, it gets a lot harder to react to your opponent's dodges, because again, the opponents are not just training mode bots. They don't instant dodge, they mix up the timings. In fact, they're reacting to you reacting. So what I'm trying to say is yes, while you can totally just react to dodges outright, the dodge is not the only thing you should be looking out for. It's kind of hard to simulate this in the training room, so guys, let's just use our imaginations. Again, like I've been showing, if the opponent falls down after the dodge, I just chase them with another nlight. But if they were to jump in this moment, I can chase them down with a Nair, I can follow them with like a recovery. So basically, every time you miss a read, don't only try to remember the dodge, but also remember what happens after the dodge. Do they jump? Do they fast fall? Do they wake up? Now, if my opponent were to miss right in front of me, I can either dash in an nlight, or I can dash in and sidelight. Now, the question is, which one is better? Well, as we see here, nlight sends higher up than for example, a soft sidelight, right, the direct comparison. So what this means is that if I do an nlight like this, it makes it easier to follow up with certain moves like nair, or just jumping and following with a Nair. If I try to do the same thing with a soft sidelight, I guess I technically could, but here's the dilemma with soft sidelight. As we see here, since my opponent is already so close to the ground after a soft sidelight, if let's say I miss my read here, this is very common in higher elos that players will dodge us and immediately punish you back because they're so close to you already. Now the obvious solution if my opponent keeps dodging my read is to either 1, pick another read, duh, right? Or 2, take a little bit more time after my attack to react to them. But here's the problem. If you take too much time after the soft sidelight, I just get woken up. Against higher elo players who are more comfortable with their other defensive options rather than just instantly dodging, you're going to experience wake-ups like this way more commonly. But of course, this doesn't immediately make soft sidelight a bad move, and it doesn't mean you should never use soft sidelight. I mean, for one, soft sidelight into nlight, yes, this is jumpable, but a lot of people won't jump this, and this is another way you can set up into your bread and butter nair Nair combo. What I'm trying to say though is that most of the time you should be looking for hard sidelight because, well, one, like I said before, it allows you to set up into this 50-50 read, but even if you're going for some other read like a, you know, whatever, a chase dodge diagonally reverse dair, a dash jump reverse dair, anything, right? It's not like your opponent is going to dodge down. I mean, look at this. If they dodge down, this is almost like a complete nothing dodge. So it kind of eliminates half of the ways that they can dodge, so it makes it easier to read after a hard sidelight, rather than a soft sidelight where you need to read all 8 directions plus spot dodge, plus jump, plus wake up, right? There's so many other things that they can do. I think the most underrated move on the kit is actually dlight. This is a move that people don't use enough. When you throw them backwards, it basically has the same setup as a sidelight does, right? So this can also, of course, be used as a confirm to do dlight into Nair to kill. Dlight actually has the added benefit of being able to do dlight recovery. Integrating dlight into your arsenal is pretty much one of the first ways I would recommend for Scythe players to start optimizing their gameplay. As we see here, I can totally go for a dash side light. I can even go for a dash nlight. I can avoid the dash altogether and just stand here and dlight. This is just another option or a mix-up to add to your kit. One of the most common ways I like to use dlight is over the ledge like this. I'm sure people have seen this before. A lot of people make the mistake of riding up the wall and exposing their hitbox a little bit too much over the corner. You can very easily catch this. And of course, the Scythe kit is one of the strongest in the game, but if I were to pick a weakness, it probably would be killing. I mean, if you're only relying on light attacks to kill, it's probably going to take a while unless you're getting some early gimps, which doesn't always happen. I would recommend you experiment looking with your sig kits, because as we see Mordex, Sidelight, and Sig, that's confirmed if they have no dodge. You can also do this on Nyx, Fate, and Artemis, and pretty much, I mean, every Scythe legend to some degree, right? And again, I'm not even just talking about doing light attacks into Sigs. I mean, yes, that's probably one of the most consistent ways to do it, but occasionally you'll meet an opponent who has an extremely bad whiff, and if there's enough time, don't be afraid to just smack them with a Sig. That's probably the most efficient way to end a stock. I'd say the number one mistake in a lot of lower elo Scythe gameplay is floating around the map, looking for a stray dare on your opponent. I see some players make an argument that you can approach with this against weapons that, you know, can't cover this angle, right? Technically, the hammer can't cover this 45-degree angle from the ground, right? So in theory, yes, you are attacking their blind spot, but it's also like, I mean, this is just like so easy to react to and punish. Not to mention this move doesn't have a lot of active frames, so it's very easy for my opponent to just spot dodge through this, turn around and stomp Sair me. And by the way, this tip goes for like every weapon. You don't want to just like randomly throw yourself at your opponent for no reason unless you have a read on them already. Moves like Dare and Nair don't really have so much value on stage as they do off stage, and they especially don't have as much value as just trying to hit a normal sidelight or a grounded move that will lead into your bread and butter reads, right? As we see here, if I hit a Nair and I throw them off stage, I can really only do a few things. One of them being chase dodging forward with a Sair, right? To catch them not jumping. But as we see here, if my opponent jumps and I miss the read, they've effectively reversed the situation. They jump over me, they return to the stage, I've thrown myself off the stage, so now they have control. The same thing applies to Dare on stage. If I hit a Dare on the ground like that at white to yellow damage, you see this is the first frame that they get out of stun. It's very, very fast, so better players won't just instant dodge, they actually mix up their defensive options. They might wake you up here, they might hit me while I'm trying to set up a follow-up, rather than just floating around looking for stray dares, which is super predictable, super punishable, and doesn't really have so much value on the stage. It's much better to just put 2 feet on the ground, use your movement to bait out options, and take advantage of the fact that all of your grounded moves are literally so fast, the punish is instant, and you can cover from so far across the stage if you integrate dlight into your gameplay. Some other things I want to mention are that sidelight dare is, in my opinion, you should really never be going for this over like any of the other strings. I mean, yeah, it's cool for making montages, but we're not trying to make a montage here, we're trying to win. So like, for one, it's jumpable, right? Sidelight Dare is completely jumpable. So is actually Sidelight nlight. This string is jumpable, but the one benefit of Sidelight nlight is that if you do hit it, it leads into Nair Sair, right? Whereas if you manage to hit a Sidelight Dare, I don't really see too much value in this move. It's a little bit harder to follow up on. At that point, you might as well just go for a Sidelight Sair and take the stage control, or, you know, just go for a hard Sidelight and again, try to set up into the 50-50 like you always do. And let's say you do manage to catch a dodge with a soft sidelight, you could do sidelight Sair into GC dlight. I'm pretty sure that's fast followable, but even then, that's more consistent of a follow-up than anything you'll get off of a sidelight dare. But you know, sometimes you are going to end up hitting a dare, and you know, that's totally fair. If you hit a dare close to the ground like this, you can do a dlight. I'm pretty sure you can get it true depending on the health or like the damage of the opponent. Yeah, there it is. You can get it true right there at 120. Once you're done building damage with your standard Nair Sair string, get them to around orange or red health, pretty much every move will be able to completely send your opponent off stage, and this is the most advantageous place to be as a Scythe player. A lot of players, once they get sent off stage, they like to return to the wall, and if they accidentally ride their head a little bit too high over the corner, this is a free dlight for you. If they have no dodge, like, okay, technically you can go for a dlight into a Nair like this, but the dlight is not confirmed after it. You see there, it's super easily jumpable. More often than not, people will jump this. A lot of times, I just like to go for a straight up dlight because, as we see here, kicking him off stage like this leads into a very oppressive Sair edgeguard. I mean, that just straight up killed him. Something that actually is confirmed, though, is doing a soft sidelight into a recovery. Remember that recovery has more force than a Nair, so this will actually kill earlier if they have no dodge when you catch them like this. One more thing that is confirmed is that if your opponent has no dodge, you can do a dare into a weapon throw. That is unjumpable and a great way to confirm stocks. Something else you've probably seen in Scythe montage is people doing dare into dare. As we see here, this is completely jumpable. So in a real game, I don't really like to go for this that often, because if you miss here, you're completely throwing yourself off the edge, right? Something that's a little bit more consistent is doing something like a dare into a ground pound right there, just because it'll catch people panic jumping up. And you guys probably hear me say this in like a lot of my videos, but even just doing nothing after the dare, this is perfectly valid, guys. You don't need to follow up off of everything. Like, just because Scythe is a string weapon doesn't mean you need to be Sandstorm on literally every single play. Just take the dare, return to stage. Just the fact that your opponent is off stage in the first place is still advantageous for you. You don't need to always follow up. And to build on that point, I wouldn't recommend going for some crazy 0 to death extension every single time, unless you have a really hard read on your opponent, because like 90% of Scythe games are exactly what I'm doing right now, which is literally just counting my opponent's jumps, waiting for a dodge, and then just going all in with a Nair to push them off the side of the stage. Most people think about Nair and Dare when thinking about gimping on Scythe, because, I mean, I get it, they're cool, right? They're active input moves, but in my opinion, the best move for gimping is literally just the Sair. Sair is so fast, it's literally like if nlight was an aerial and had a lot of force. As we see here, all I have to do is just match my opponent's height, so literally jump with them, wait out their options, and Sair to kill them by hitting them off the side of the stage. The part about matching your opponent's height when looking for a Sair is really important, because as we see here, if you hit the bottom part of the Sair, it has the most force and sends at the best angle. If they're recovering in this kind of middle range area like this, you can catch this with a jump fastball recovery. Sair, the one weakness of it is that it's so fast, so you can kind of dodge through it if they can react, right? It doesn't have a lot of active frames, but recovery does have some more active frames, so a lot of people will like to save their dodge, right, to try and dodge through you on the stage. So recovery has a little bit better of a chance of catching that rather than a Sair. And by the way, this goes for literally every weapon, but for people who like to dodge through you like this, you don't necessarily need to punish them right on the dodge. What you can do is, rather than looking for a recovery like this, you can literally just wait out the dodge. Now that they don't have a dodge, you get a confirmed nlight recovery or like a sidelight Sair for free. Now, Sair is probably your most consistent way for confirming stocks off the side of the map. However, if your opponent doesn't have any more options, another thing you can go for is a GC dlight like that. And the whole Sair GC dlight thing is great for when you're chasing your opponent off stage, like I was doing before. But not every time you're going to be following your opponent. A lot of times you're going to be on the ledge here. And let's say I send my opponent off stage. I'm sitting on the ledge, and instead of recovering high and up and over me, my opponent recovers to the wall, which is very common, right? They go low, and they burn their dodge, for example. If they're going to the wall and they have no dodge left, this is a perfect opportunity to do one of two things. You can either do a dash jump fast fall ground pound like this. This is very hard to react to. It's predictable, I will say, but if they have no dodge, this is almost unavoidable. The other option you can go for is a dash jump fast fall dare, and you can do a dare to send them into the wall. I'm sorry, it's a little bit difficult for me to simulate in training mode. Maybe I'll put a video on screen right now, but if you send them into the wall, you can look for wall combos. Dare into ground pound is probably the most consistent one. You can also do dare into dare. And remember, everything I'm saying here really only applies, or at least I only recommend it when your opponent already burns the dodge off stage. Because if they do have a dodge, I mean, I'm sure all of us have seen Scythe players go for this dash jump dare, dash jump ground pound. It's so telegraphed. As long as you have a dodge, you can just react, dodge through it, and now your opponent has completely reversed the edgeguard situation, because again, you've completely thrown yourself off the stage, and now they can edgeguard you. Of course, the Scythe player has such an advantage because they can always nair you back off stage, but that's not really the point. What I'm trying to say is that, like with any weapon, there's no reason to just completely throw yourself off stage unless you already have a confirmed read on them. Now, let's say you mess up your edgeguard and you miss your Sair to secure the stock. You can actually just, this is the time that you would look for a nair to send them back off stage. This is the reason why Scythe is just so annoying to play against, because even if they mess up, they always have this nair, or even the dare, to throw you back off stage to where you started. And of course, if you hit a nair like this, it really only leads into one hit most of the time. Of course, that one hit is super valuable because you send your opponent back off stage, right? And you reset the edgeguard situation. So this is a lot of value. However, let's say, for example, you do want to go for a follow-up. My advice here is you need to be good at not only reading dodges, right, but also jumps and fast falls. The main way you're going to get KOs here is looking for a nair into a recovery to catch panic jumps. As you see here, This will kill super early. The other option is to go for something like a nair into a dare. And again, if you catch that dare, you can do dare into weapon throw, which is the other way that I like to secure really early stocks. And just to reiterate, the main point of this video, if you haven't gotten it already, is just to be simple. Just because Scythe is a really flashy string weapon doesn't mean you need to be going for flashy strings all the time. Just this dare is already a lot of value because of how far you send them off stage. Same thing with the nair. You don't need to follow up, alright? Just the stage control is good enough. And to close out this video, I want to talk about recovering back to stage because, ironically enough, although Scythe has probably the best offstage kit in the entire game, it's notoriously bad at making it back to the stage, so mainly because of the recovery. As you see here, recovery is more of a follow-up tool because it doesn't go very far, rather than an actual recovery option. Because of this, when I'm sent very far off stage, I like to try to use the recovery first because it allows me to use a jump Nair to cover myself coming back to the stage, because as you see here, it covers right above you like this. Now to cover right above you, you can totally do a weapon throw. However, most of the time I find that I don't really need to do a weapon throw upwards. Jump Nair by itself is fine. Not to mention, I always like to keep my weapon in my hand because I want to keep the opportunity open to be able to hit a nair whenever possible, because this one nair completely reverses the edgeguard situation. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!